Wydarzenie realizowane przy wsparciu finansowym Gminy Lublin w ramach programu Lublin Akademicki. Na podcast akademicki zaprasza Koło Naukowe Ekonomistów Uniwersytetu Marii Curie-Skłodowskiej w Lublinie.
The Scientific Club of Economists of the Marie Curie-Skłodowska University invites you to listen to the Academic Podcast. Welcome back to another episode of the second season of the Academic Podcast. Today's special guest is Vas Taras, PhD, X-Culture Project Director, Project Founder and Coordinator. As a profession, he teaches international business at the Bryan School of Business and Economics at the University of North Carolina at Greensboro. He is also a Vice President Administration at Academy of International Business and Fellow of the Academy of International Business in Southeast USA. My name is Natasza, and I'll have the privilege to conduct this interview. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me to this talk.
All right. Could you start by introducing the X-Culture ideas to our audience? What is it about, and what does it mean to participate in it?
X-Culture was launched in 2010. At that time, I started teaching international business at the University of North Carolina at Greensboro. And I found myself in a difficult situation where I would be standing in front of the classroom of my students and trying to explain to them that doing business, for example, with Germans or Lithuanians is different than doing business with Americans. The students would be listening to me. They would sort of believe me, but not quite understand what I mean. It's the same feeling that if I tried to teach my students how to swim on a football field. You have to get in the water to learn how to swim. And so with international business, you have to have that international experience to understand international business. And so I thought it would be a good idea to find a professor who also teaches international business in a different country, and maybe put my students and that professor's students in international teams and give them a project to work on. And so I sent out an email through the Academy of International Business asking if anyone wants to participate. Quite a few people responded. The first time we did it, we had 7 universities from 7 different countries. It's gotten much bigger in the 12 years. This semester, we had 7,000 students from 70-something countries, from almost 200 universities. And so what we do is we place those students in global virtual teams so that each team is comprised of about 7 people, each one from a different country. And so this way, the students experience in real life the challenges of online collaboration, of international collaboration, that I'm trying to teach them through the lectures. So they deal with time zone differences, cultural differences, institutional differences. So this way, they experience the things that are hard to learn from lectures or from readings, and hopefully in the process not only make friends in different countries, but also learn how to work with people from different countries.
So the main premises of creating X-Culture Project was to allow your students to think outside the box and just to communicate better with other people from other countries?
To learn international business by doing international business. So not by reading. Well, I guess we still do the readings and lectures and sometimes exercises in class, but the main idea is to provide an experiential learning opportunity. And so there are sort of 2 things here. One is obviously, working with people from other cultures, but also another big component that sort of became almost the primary one over the years. In the early years, the task was just to write a hypothetical business plan. But then soon enough, real companies started coming to us with real questions. The first client was Mercedes-Benz. They needed some ideas for a marketing strategy for one of the countries where they were doing business. So they thought the students would have good ideas, and they did. So they came up with some interesting solutions. And so ever since, we would have up to 15 companies in a given semester, real companies with real life problems that ask students for help. And so the students then basically serve as international business consultants. So they collect data, they design marketing idea or marketing strategies, they do some research online. And so this way they both learn how to work with people from other countries, but also they experience how it is to be an international business consultant. So the companies get useful input, ideas, solutions. The students get experience. and then professors. So we are also customers in a way. We get students who not only show better results in the subjects that they study, but also are happier, more satisfied with the course, so they find them more developmental. So everybody wins in this sort of triangle of companies, professors, and students.
Right. You mentioned that over 70 countries are participating. With so many participants, it must be difficult to choose the host each year. What made you choose Lublin this year? What was the reason that Lublin was chosen?
Yes, so it's a gigantic project, and so it depends on how you count the number of countries. So if you go by the actual physical location of the students, that's about 70 countries. By the locations of the universities, it's about 45, 50. By the nationality, it's over 100, so it's a very diverse. We have participants from every continent. And it does take a tremendous amount of work and time and effort to deliver it. It's essentially an international enterprise. But on the one hand, it's worth it for me and for my colleagues, professors who run the project, because one, as I said, it is part of the courses that we teach. So our job is to train students in international business. And by adding X-Culture, it does cost us more time, but it also makes our teaching more effective. So that sort of becomes part of our job. Second, most of us live in what we call a publish or perish world. So we are professors, but not only as teachers, but also as researchers. And so our job is to do research and publish research papers. And so in some disciplines, like in physics, they build lasers and colliders and whatever else and microscopes, and they look at the microbes and the stars. In maybe biology, they would have labs with microorganisms or monkeys or rats in the cages. So, well, in our case, we use X-Culture as a gigantic research laboratory. So we have over 1,000 teams every semester, and that allows us to study all kinds of things that are going on in the teams. So why some teams do better than others, why some people are more likely to be team leaders, why some people struggle, how does it work with leadership, communication, conflicts, choice of communication tools, you name it. And so in management science, teams are notoriously difficult to study. The truth is that even though there are teams in just about every organization, but if you wanted to study them as a scientist, it's extremely difficult to get access to a large number of teams at once. Because even if you are in an agreement with a large organization like, Google or Mercedes-Benz, all the teams that they have, they're different in size. They work on a different project. They work at a different time with different bosses. So you can't really get an access to a large number of teams that work on the same thing at the same time under the same conditions. And so most of the research on teams is either a case study with a small number of teams, or maybe some, that's basically the typical approach. And so here we have this gigantic research lab that allows us to do the research that nobody else can. It does take a lot of time to manage it, but it gives so many more opportunities that, it kind of makes it worthwhile. And so there are quite a few professors who are participating in the project, not only as teachers, but also as administrators. So they enroll to provide their students with additional opportunities, but they also say, hey, how can I help? And so we have quite a few people who are willing to help essentially for free, just to keep rolling this wonderful project.
Mm-hmm. All right. But why Lublin? Why this year?
For the Academy of International, for the X-Culture Symposium?
Yes.
That's a very good question. So from the very beginning of X-Culture, we noticed that some of our professors started bringing their students with them to the scientific conferences that we as professors go to every year. Notably, the Academy of International Business Annual Conference that is organized every year in a different location. And so first we would bring a few students, then more. Then at some point, we carved out a whole section in the Academy of International Business Conference that is done in the United States Southeast. And so we just had one in Panama City in Florida with 60 students from all around the world. But then so many more students wanted to attend these events that we decided to have a whole separate self-standing X-Culture Symposium event. And so we do those usually in the summer. We had the most recent one was in Canada. Before that, it was in Italy. Before that, it was also in Miami. And so in an attempt, I'll be in full disclosure, in an attempt to minimize the cost, we try to organize these symposia close to major international conferences that our professors would be attending anyway. And so this year, the first sort of initial idea or nudge to go to Poland was that the Academy of International Business will be in Poland this year. And so we thought we as professors go to that conference and then we stay longer for the X-Culture Symposium. But then the more we started looking at the location, the more we liked it, irrespective of the other events. So Poland is a unique country in a way that it has gone from essentially a Soviet state just some 20, 30 years ago to a fully developed, perhaps one of the fastest developing European Union countries. So that's quite a success story. And those of us who've been to Poland multiple times, as I have, you could see the difference. Every year you go, you see a lot of development. So that would be an interesting experience for our students to have to talk to the local entrepreneurs, community leaders, maybe politicians. So that's an interesting case study in economic development. Second, extremely importantly, as you obviously know, there is a war going on in Ukraine. And so Poland is in a way on the forefront of perhaps not being directly involved in the war on the military side, but definitely playing a critical, important role, leading role in providing the support, hosting the refugees, being close enough to a rocket landed recently in Poland just a few days ago. And so we thought with all that's going on in the geopolitics in the world these days, Poland would be an interesting location to go and to try to learn more about what's going on there, from the first hand, so to speak. And so the whole idea here is to take students to places where things are happening economically, geopolitically, where they can have an experience, meet the people, observe things that wouldn't be visible, available in where they are. And so when you look at the planet these days, yes, Poland seems to be one of those places that could be extremely enriching, to visit, to meet the people there, to learn about the challenges Poland faces. Again, obviously, quite a few of them due to the war in the neighboring country, and so that's exactly what we intend to do. So our plan is to meet with the Polish not only scientists and professors, but also, as I said, entrepreneurs, community leaders, politicians, maybe volunteers, maybe some of the refugees. And so give the students that perspective that often they cannot get from just simply listening to the news or reading the newspapers.
Mm-hmm. And throughout the last decades, has any other Polish university has been chosen to host the X-Culture Global Business Symposium?
Not to host, so we haven't had any events in Poland, but we've had quite a few universities from Poland participating all these years in X-Culture. So you mentioned Marie Curie. So we had a university from Katowice that participated for quite some time. So we've had, I can look at the actual list, but we would normally have 2-3 universities from Poland participating. So basically a professor with a group of students participating in the X-Culture project for education purposes. We wrote some papers with Polish professors, some research papers. And so obviously now we're trying to deepen that relationship and actually have a whole event in Poland. So our hope is that it will give us an opportunity to kind of widen and broaden that collaboration. We also hear that Lublin specifically has been designated the Youth Capital of the European Union 2023. And so to our knowledge, there will be a bunch of other events happening in Lublin at that time. So we would very much be interested in maybe meeting with not only universities and students from universities, but maybe also with other youth organizations, maybe with some teenagers. X-Culture does have a teenager track, so same project for younger people. So maybe we will even find ways to expand our collaboration beyond simply universities and science communities, but also to more youth organizations, volunteer movements, and we'll see what it brings. So every time we have a meeting in a different country, it always brings about some context, some projects together that we never planned for in the beginning. So you never know whom you're going to meet and where those meetings will lead you.
So X-Culture is not an event only for academics or students. Is it open to anyone else?
So yes, very good question. Originally, in the beginning, it was designed to be specifically for university students, primarily for the MBA students and then undergraduates. But almost from the very beginning, we had first professors who would approach me and ask if their children can enroll. So I would hear sort of a question of the kind, I have a son or a daughter, 15, 16 years old, will be applying to a university soon. Can he or she participate in this project? It would be a good learning opportunity for them, maybe, strengthen the resume before they apply. And so for a long time, I would say no, because there is a big difference in age, between the MBA students and teenagers. But then at some point, about 6 years ago, we thought, well, maybe let's give it a try. And so we tried allowing teenagers to participate. So the first time we did it, we had about 40, maybe 60 of them. So, and then over the years, the number has grown. So usually we allow 13 and up, but most of the participants would be more like 15, 16, 17. And so they would be basically completing the same project, also international teams, also international business consulting, with the difference that we provide them with additional training before the project starts. So they have to complete 16 training modules on things like online collaboration tools, cross-cultural communication, conflict resolution. So basically things that they need to know for participating in a project like this, and perhaps that they normally wouldn't get in their schools. And so we created this teenager track that we call X-Culture Academy. And they are not only participating in the virtual part, but they also attend the symposia face-to-face. Many of them are doing an extremely good job. And many of them obviously went on to college by now, but we're still staying in touch. But then another track we have, we call it Professionals. That's, again, sort of started with requests we started getting from friends of former participants. So there would be people who would approach us and say, hey, I'm 25 or 35 years old. I do this job. I will be applying for a new job or for promotion. And I think participating in a project like yours, getting your certificate would help me get that better job. Can I participate? And again, originally we would not allow them to participate, thinking that it's all for university students. But then we thought, hey, why limit it only to university students? So now we also allow non-student adults to participate. Again, they all would be in separate tracks. So obviously teenagers would be with teenagers of their own age. University students would be with university students, professionals with professionals. Again, we try to match them more or less by work experience, by age, but otherwise it's the same project. So in a way, yes, X-Culture is open to just about everyone, although there is a selection process. So we would still have to review the application, and then there is as I said, a series of training modules that they need to complete before the project commences. But also they would need to pass a few tests. And so here we are making sure that the person is not only fluent enough in English, which is the working language of the project, not only know how to use the online collaboration tools, not only have the capacity to learn and prove it, but also simply dedication and motivation. To be honest, we do have quite a few people who sort of apply thinking that, it would be great to have it on my resume, but then sort of, do not deliver the kind of performance we expect. Just like we sometimes decide to sign up for a gym membership, but then never go, or decide to get on a diet and, don't follow. I guess sometimes people have a resolution to learn something new, to get a new certificate, to meet new people, but then, are busy at work or maybe with family obligations. So there is a selection process, but otherwise, yes, anyone can apply, anyone can participate. And most people who participated stay in touch with us for a long time. Many, in fact, participate multiple times. Some become coaches for the new generations of X-Culture students. And so there is a program for that as well. So first they train as members of the team, then they train as coaches, as mentors for the new teams. So thereby getting also managerial experience. So many of them stay in touch for many years. And some have even joined our administrative team. So we have some former participants who now help us run the project. So it's, again, sort of a mutually beneficial collaboration.
This additional training seems interesting, as some people may feel inadequate. Do you need a basic understanding of economics to participate?
So the training is demanding and is interesting, but the whole point of that training is so that if people join unprepared, they get the necessary preparation before they're placed on a team. So I wouldn't expect anyone to feel inadequate, as you said. I would say that if you join and you didn't have any prior international business experience, we will provide the training. So as I said, the training modules cover things like communication online, communication cross-culturally, cross-cultural conflicts, online communication tools, teamwork, leadership, some basics of economics and international business, of course. Again, they don't need to be sort of world-class experts in international economics and business, but they need to have some basics, some sort of, know the language, the vocabulary, some of the basic models and concepts for international business. Then, so to pass the tests, I guess as long as you do the homework, as long as you do the readings, there are some lectures they need to attend, they will pass the test. It's 4 weeks. I hope it's not too demanding, so most people pass. So I assume it's properly scaled. Some fail, but they can always try again. But then throughout the project, we do provide additional training. So we always invite guest speakers from among the professors or business owners or founders who work with us on the project. We also have guest speakers. We have fun sessions. For example, our students organize all kinds of, meet and greet sessions. My favorite one is they do it almost every weekend. They call it a virtual picnic. So where people sort of gather up in front of a camera, just like we are with you here, and they bring some food with them. And obviously, because of the time zone differences, for someone it could be the breakfast, for someone it could be the lunch, for someone it could be the dinner. But we show what kind of food we have. Like here I have some tea, and maybe you have some, I don't know, whatever you may be eating. But it's a nice sort of like almost like a campfire type of conversation. So you kind of talk, you share some experiences, you sometimes talk a little bit about politics or about, I don't know, whatever's going on in your country. So this way people can be acquiring not only new experiences, but also new skills, new knowledge, new competencies throughout the whole project.
Yeah, maybe for now, let's leave out politics out of the way and talk a little more about what is it about to participate. Why is it so interesting? Why should it be interesting for students to participate in? What benefits can they expect, or what skills they can develop by participating in a project?
Perhaps the best way to answer that is to sort of go to the very basic sort of challenges and competencies that the X-Culture exposes the students to. So for the university students, as I said, the whole idea was to allow them to experience in real life the things that I'm trying to explain in the classroom. So in my international business courses that I teach, I have to explain to the students that perhaps the values, the work ethics, the work standards, the communication style, you name it. So all those things are different in different countries. And even though we sort of can learn the same language, for example, English for communication, when you work with people, let's say, for example, from Poland or from Germany or from Japan or from Saudi Arabia, they will be sort of behaving, communicating, interacting differently than what you're used to in the United States. And so here the students do not have to take sort of my word for it, so they can experience it in real life. Not to mention that when we talk about time zone differences, when we talk about the limitations of online communication, again, one thing is when I tell you that it's hard to schedule a meeting when you have people, let's say, from India, from Europe, from Canada, from Mexico. So obviously there will be no good time for everyone to meet. So here they would kind of experience it firsthand. So they will learn by getting into that proverbial international business water. So they will learn how to swim those international business waters. But also it goes sort of a little bit farther than that. So when we started the teenager track, the first time we did it, I actually enrolled my own children, who at that time were, I think it was like 11 and 14 or something like that. And so again, I thought for them it would be mostly about this international cultural sort of experience. But turns out much of the learning happened about, around the basic things that I sort of took for granted and I didn't realize they don't know. Like, for example, they didn't know how to write emails. So they were sort of using, the messengers all the time. But once you work on a serious project with a, bigger team, you have to write full length emails. And I was, no, that's, like a short text with 5 words. It's not enough. Emojis are good, but not for a business project. So I had to help them, write, full sentences, write, proper business report, essentially. Likewise, for example, lots of technical things like, okay, you need to schedule a meeting. So how do you find the time that works for everyone? You cannot just, ask everyone about the time in their time zone, and then try to coordinate it when you have more people. Well, there is this tool called Doodle that allows you to find a time that works for the whole team. It automatically adjusts for the time zones, makes scheduling these international meetings much easier. So they were like, oh, that's interesting. Then I would explain to them that, for example, sending documents as email attachments when you jointly write a business report, it's not a good practice. Soon enough, you will have 20 different copies of that document, of that Word document. Nobody will know which one is the latest. You will have so many different ones that you will not be able to merge. But there are things like Dropbox, like Google Docs, like Slack, tools that allow you to co-edit and co-create things together online. So some of them are more for writing together a document. Some of them would be more for general project management, communication and things like that. And so all of those are essentially elements of the X-Culture sort of experience. So not only do you learn about cultures of different countries, not only you meet people from different countries, but you experience all those many thousands of little challenges. And so with our help, but also sometimes through the trial and error, you find the best ways to deal with it, because these same challenges will happen to you again and again and again as you do business or as you work for a company, because chances are you'll have to do something in a team and very likely in a global virtual team. So in a way, it is sort of a preview of what's in store for you, so that when those things happen again, you know what to expect and you know how to handle it. So that's the whole idea. And to be honest, I'm not even, I'll say it as it is. So I'm sort of, I wouldn't say that I'm happy, but I do not mind that students sometimes experience some problems, so to speak. I do not mind that students maybe have someone on the team who is too shy or maybe too bossy, or maybe sometimes misses an appointment or a team meeting, or maybe sometimes speaks with a heavy accent that you cannot understand, or maybe sometimes even, plagiarizes or does something not the right way. And so obviously it's bad, but at the same time, it will happen again and again and again. And so in X-Culture, you experience those challenges. You sort of try to find ways to deal with them. Your solutions may not work right away, but over time you will see, okay, well, this way of talking to this person doesn't help. Let me try some different way. And so all with the goal of that when you do it as part of your job tomorrow, and most of them will do it as part of their job tomorrow, they know what kind of challenges can happen, and they already know some of the solutions to those challenges because they saw the same things in X-Culture and they had to deal with them before.
All right, we've been through what does the project mean for students. Now let's take a look from another approach. Could you just, in a few words, very shortly, tell us what is the role and responsibilities of the companies that take part in the project? What are benefits for them?
So most of the time, we try to work with medium-sized companies that already have, or maybe even small companies that already have a product and maybe operate in one market, but they would like to expand globally or to more countries. And so most of the time, they ask our students to conduct competition analysis, to find most promising new markets, to develop a marketing strategy for that market. If they need to hire people there, then to develop a recruitment strategy, compensation strategy, performance management for those people. In many cases, they ask for help with researching the sort of shipping options, logistics, trade regulations, whatever local rules could be, maybe something related to payments if Again, it's a country where perhaps people don't use credit cards much and things like that. And so from the company, we would then expect a clearly defined task. And again, our professors will work with the company trying to develop the sort of the brief, the list of questions and tasks for the students to work on. Then once the project starts, we would like to have at least one webinar with the company managers or founders so that they can introduce the company to the students and also clarify the specific task that the students need to complete. So there would be usually an hour or so long webinar, and that's where the company talks about the company, the history, the product, answers students' questions so they kind of meet one another. Most of the time, companies would have a few more of those webinars throughout the semester, usually focusing in the second, third one more on sort of providing feedback to the students. The students would share the ideas they have, the research they've done. The company would say, okay, this is very good, keep working on this. This perhaps may not be as interesting. We tried it, it didn't work. So kind of steer the students in the right direction. And then obviously at the end, the students submit their solutions, submit their reports. And so the company then hopefully will find those useful. And judging by the fact that not a single company didn't want to participate again, so pretty much all the clients participated multiple times, I judge that most of them found it extremely useful. And we've had companies that expanded into new markets, found new retailers, distributors, partners. Some of them even changed their names because the students told them that the name you currently have doesn't sound right in a different different languages. So we had all kinds of, rebranding and changes of that kind. But ultimately for the company, it's essentially, think about it, that you will have about 1,000 or so employees or interns or consultants working for you, and they are all around the planet. And so it's sort of your task force, labor force that will be working for you for the next semester. So you can capitalize on it. You can use it to your advantage. And so if you design the task correctly, they will be able to do things that the company itself wouldn't be able to do, but even maybe a professional consulting company will not be able to do, because professional consultants will be, a couple of them maybe in one country. Here you have the sort of boots on the ground. So if there is an opportunity out there, somebody will tell you about it. As one of the clients said, working with X-Culture, it's like sending millions of ants in every direction to look for food. So if somebody dropped a candy somewhere, one of those ants will stumble upon it and tell you about it. So same thing here. So it's not that students are particularly smart, although many of them are. It's just that there are so many of them in different countries. And so they are exposed to many different opportunities there. And so if there is a opportunity for your company, they'll probably find it out and tell you about it and tell you how to sort of, capitalize on it.
As we are approaching to the end of our podcast, can you give out some advice to our students who are at the beginning of their careers?
Experience, that's, seems to be something that is in short supply. So these days, getting the sort of theoretical knowledge is not that difficult anymore. I mean, obviously, in addition to your university and to the textbooks that you can read, you can take all kinds of courses online through Coursera, Udemy, all kinds of online teaching resources, watch videos on YouTube, lots of useful educational stuff there. One thing that is more difficult to obtain, but this is also what companies that you will be applying for jobs to, that they seem to be particularly interested in, is the actual real life experience. And so I encourage you to try to take an internship, try to maybe create your own company, try to do something sort of with your hands, and it doesn't have to be manual, but try to do something in real life in addition to attending lectures, reading books, watching educational YouTube videos. X-Culture could be one of those experiences if you are into international business. There are many other projects that would allow you to sort of get your hands dirty, so to speak. So try through experience. When you will be applying for jobs, there will be many other students or applicants who are like you, who went to school, who had good grades, who read a lot of books, but there will be very few who actually have real life experience. And so if you have that, you will learn a lot in the process. You will learn many more things that you can learn from books, but also you will have the kind of experience on your resume that will differentiate you from your competition. And so that will make it much easier for you to get a job. Or if you decide to start your own business, So that practical experience will serve you very well as well.
Thank you very much for today. Guest of the second season of the Academic Podcast was Vas Taras, PhD. The episode was hosted by Natasza Łapińska. Once again, thank you, and I hope to hear from you soon.
Thank you very much, Natasza. Very, very professionally done. So I can tell you've done it before. So very, very impressive.
Thank you. The event is organized with the financial support of the Municipality of Lublin as part of the Lublin Akademicki program.
Wydarzenie realizowane przy wsparciu finansowym Gminy Lublin w ramach programu Lublin Akademicki. Na podcast akademicki zaprasza Koło Naukowe Ekonomistów Uniwersytetu Marii Curie Skłodowskiej w Lublinie.